Yo, what's going on, Epic 7? I'm Sue, and this is my beginner's guide to challenge mode Abyss Floor 3. Floor 3 will have you facing off against Burning Eye Lich. In order to get 3 stars on this fight, you need to 1. Clear the Lich without triggering Outrage, and 2. You cannot play a Soul Weaver. The core mechanic of the fight is Soul Exchange. This basically says that as long as Burning Eye Lich has a ad available, basically an ally on the board, if you try to kill him, instead he will set his health to 50%, so you must kill the remaining ads that are available. And that's going to be a little bit obnoxious because of this other passive, Mana of Immortality. You see these ads that he spawns, Duskskull Warlock. As long as the boss is alive, which if it's alive, obviously the fight's still going, whenever these would die, instead their HP is set to 1 and they get immortality for 1 turn. And the boss could constantly respawn these Duskskull Warlocks with its ultimate, Hell's Gate. Additionally, Mana of Immortality says things like Daydream Joker, while still useful, are only at half efficiency. Now, let's talk about the mechanics of the fight. To get the 2nd star, it's trivial, right? Simply don't defense break the boss. It is that simple. As long as you win the stage and you don't defense break something, you're good. So just don't play any defense breakers. That's all you really have to do. The hardest part of this fight is the 3rd star condition, which is clear it without using a Soul Weaver. That makes sustaining through the fight quite a bit difficult. Now, you can get creative and use artifacts like, say, Grail of Blood. You might be able to use a really strong tank on Aureus if you have incredible gear on the other damage dealers that are on your team. These are all options. The options that I like to do, though, for this fight involve putting a lot of the pressure on your ranger. Basically, my strategies are fully centered around a specific ranger. When I first made a challenge mode Abyss Guide series a couple years back, I used the artifact Bloodstone, which is a 5-star artifact. If you have the artifact Bloodstone, just put it on Bomb Model Kana or whatever your best like AoE damage dealing ranger is, and play any other 3 characters. It's really that simple. Bloodstone will just carry you through this floor, easy peasy. But the thing is, that is how I did it in my previous guide from several years back. Yes, I used things like Arbiter, Vildred, and whatnot, but for the most part, the strategy is just Bomb Model Kana plus Bloodstone, free win. But what if you don't have Bloodstone, right? Most of the strategies that I see online use Bloodstone. So instead, I decided to come up with this strategy, which involves damage. A lot of damage, right? So as you can see, here is the team here, right? All of these characters are freely available to everybody. They come from expert hunt missions, adventure mode quests, and connections. Of the 4 characters here, I feel like Vivian is the only really indispensable one, and that is because of this exclusive equipment here. Dispels 1 debuff from all allies before the skill effect when using Mana Amplification. Everybody in this fight loves to use the blind debuff, right? That makes dealing damage very, very hard. And since you have no way to heal, you are on a very short timer to try to burst the boss down and kill them. So that is why we're playing Vivian, because she gives immunity to the whole team and then can cleanse the blind, so that way we are freely able to deal damage. Any other damage dealer that you want to play, you are welcome to do it, right? Vivian, I think, is the only real mandatory one, right? Surmia is probably the least mandatory one. I will show you Surmia's stats. This is all Dash Pass gear that was gotten from a couple months back now at this point. Hey, pretty much whatever you want. Exclusive equipment is just the barrier, so that way she survives. Daydream Joker, even though it's at half efficiency here, that is the artifact. Right side here, critical hit damage, attack percentage on the ring, boots or speed. In case I didn't mention it, that's the same exact thing here for Vivian. Sets don't really matter too much. As long as she's like over 200 speed with decent damage, you are good to go. Perhaps the hardest character to build here is Yuna. This is a connection hero. As for how we have her built, right? Any damage increasing artifacts, the extra combat readiness exclusive equipment, right? On small drone tuna. Right side is critical hit damage, attack percentage, and boots are speed. You don't need to be this fast, but the faster you can go, the better, right? You'll notice that almost all of my gear is either Dash Pass gear, Arena gear, Abyss gear, something that was gained from the Abyss series, or the free ring that they gave out last year if you managed to get it. So whatever you have laying around, just try to get Yuna's speed as high as possible while still being built as a damage dealer, right? Probably, I want to say at least like 250 crit damage, 100% critical hit chance, and like 220 or 230 speed. If you can get that, that's probably sufficient in order to actually clear this thing. The main reason I'm going with Yuna is because, again, she's free, but she gives an attack buff and a speed buff to everybody, so she massively increases our offense capability. All of her moves are AoE, and you'll see when we get into the fight, the boss spawns up to 4 enemies at a time, and remember, as long as they're all on the board, you cannot win. So having a character that just floods the board with a ton of AoE damage is super, super useful. Yuna is basically what I'm using in place of Bomb Model Kana or whatever ranger with Bloodstone. Now, as for the front line, you're going to want a character that has some kind of dodge or innate sustain, ideally some kind of innate sustain. So I'm using Savior Auden on just 2 random pieces of gear on the necklace and the boots, so critical hit damage necklace, and then boots. These are the Abyss pieces, basically, that we got from the previous series. And you'll notice that all of the other pieces are on the lifesteal set, all gained from the Abyss from the previous series, right? So if you've already cleared Abyss up through 120 using my previous guides, you could just use Savior Auden on that Abyss gear that's like left over, and it'll work perfectly fine. Basically, the reason for this is because Savior Auden has, with her Artifactor, sort of cycling seasons, and her passive fully leveled up, she has 70% evasion, and if you put her in the front line, if she gets hit, she counters. That's a big AoE counter, does AoE damage to all the adds, and it heals her because she's on the lifesteal set. Her S1 naturally also has lifesteal, so she could function as my tank. Now, I could play other tanks, right? Like, I could play Brieg, but he has a defense break in his kit, so that'll trigger Outrage. I could play Raz, but think about it. What does Raz do without his S2? I can't S2 because it defense breaks. Same thing with Kluri. I could play Kluri, but the only real reason to play Kluri would be the S3 for the defense break. You can play these characters if you want. Well, maybe not Brieg, but they don't really contribute any damage. So I highly recommend putting somebody that has good DPS in the front that can have some kind of sustain, right? For example, if you have Navy Captain Landy, great character, has innate sustain with her S2 salvo, right? That's a character you can play. You can play Abyssal Euphine. All those people in the comment section from the previous Abyss videos, if you want to play Abyssal, this is your time to shine. Slap her on some lifesteal gear, put her in the front. She'll probably do quite a bit of work for you. But yeah, I'm going with Savior Auden. Green Violet could also work in the slot. Basically, any character that you can put on lifesteal or has a way to gain health and can take a hit in the front spot, that's going to work just fine. Again, big damage is the name of the game here because we simply don't have any actual real healing on the team. If you want real healing, you're going to need Bloodstone. Again, see my previous guides. Now that you understand the mechanics, let's get into the actual fight. All right, so the first thing you'll notice in here is that the Lich will always attack the character on your team with the highest attack and give them attack down. That's by design. Don't think it's like RNG or anything. In this case, for me, it's Sirmia.
Okay, where do I start?
That's where we start our buff train up with Yuna.
Can't you handle this?
We S3 here. This will cleanse any blinds that you have and then give you immunity to be unable to be hit by anything otherwise. I'm going to S3 the boss. Alright, so if your Vivian was slower than these, you will be hit by that blind. For Sirmia, I'm going to go for the boss. After the first S3 from Savior Auden, I pretty much always send Sirmia at the boss and only really use the S3s from Auden on the boss.
Were you waiting long?
And we let the AoE damage from the Vivian and the Yuna, as well as the chip damage here from the S1s on Auden, pretty much do the rest. We can soul burn this.
I shall honor you with my Keep watching, everyone. What fool dares?
S3 into the boss.
I'll blow you away. Let's go, Tuna.
We can S3 here.
You can't look down on me. Ta-da! Fire! I have
All right, we can
something
S1 one of these.
I will never lose. Stay on your toes.
Very interesting.
We can S1 here.
Okay, where do I start?
Buffs up. You'll notice, by the way, that the greater attack buff here gets renewed to 3 turns because of Yuna.
I'll bet my entire fortune on victory.
I'm all ready.
We can soul burn here.
Facing me. How dare you?
Don't worry, I'm here.
All right. At this point, with the AoE damage here, I think we could try to start to
Were you waiting?
go a little bit here on the boss, put a little bit more pressure on it. So we're blinded again.
Interesting.
So next turn we'll be able to use our S3 to get out of that.
Okay, where do I start?
Even though I'm blinded, we're going to go for this.
It isn't over yet. Punish them. Shall we get going?
Hit the boss here.
Can't you handle this?
Let's go. Boss is coming up on their ultimate. I think we're going to actually just soul burn this one.
All is done. You'll regret facing me.
Get away. I fight with the power of
Alright, we can
all.
S3 the boss here.
Future reference. This is what a perfect cut looks like. Let's go, Tuna.
Alright, boss up again.
Were you waiting? Okay, where do I start?
Alright, now we basically just have to rush down this one here.
I shall honor you with my
Soul burn go here.
in a real fight.
Are you competent?
You
Destruction.
could go S3 here because this first guy here, his very first turn, he's going to blind us again and summon more ads.
As long as I have something to protect, I will never lose.
There you go. There's another ad.
Stay on your toes. What fool dares to
Attack this one.
me? Let's go, Tuna.
Go S3 here.
You can't look down on me. Ta-da! Fire!
I'm all ready.
Alright, so this is actually dangerous because if I go for an AoE, right, it'll definitely kill all this, but it will also trigger the passive instead of to 50%. So instead, we're just going to single target there. Sermia dies, that's fine. I can die.
Interesting.
Get rid of that. Now we go buffs up, press S1, and it'll easily kill both of these. And then you just S1 with Savior Auden. And there you go. So even though Sermia died, as you can see, that is going to be Abyss Challenge Mode Floor 3 in a nutshell, right? Super easy. All you need to do is just make sure you have consistent high damage with some kind of sustainer in the front line. Like I said, having a fast Yuna to give us that cycling with the S1 CR pushing, the speed buff, the attack buff, that's all super, super useful. And like I said, the linchpin, I think, of the whole team is definitely Vivian. She holds it all together. But if there are other strategies that you have found that are not this one and are not using a Bloodstone Ranger, please let everybody know down in the comment section below. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll see you all in Challenge Mode Abyss Floor 4. Later now.